This is the Communicative drawing program, and this program is focused for individuals with severe aphasia who are limited in their oral and written language expression. Today my patient is going to be my sister Hannah, and so today we are going to use drawing as a way to communicate. There are 10 steps in this program, and the first step is identifying basic semantic conceptual knowledge. And so the clinician is going to show a series of pictures 5 different times in 5 different categories, and the clinician will instruct the patient to circle the objects that belong together. So Hannah, I want you to take this pen and I want you to circle all the objects that go together. So Hannah circled all of the fruits. There are 5 of them. And so mastery criteria for this step is 100% identification of the 5 items in the 5 different categories. Moving on to step 2. This is the knowledge of object color properties. And so the clinician will show 9 different objects and have the client use markers or color pencils, some way to identify and color each object. So Hannah, I want you to use these markers and I want you to select the color and color that item. Very good. So Hannah colored a carrot, cherries, and grapes, and she correctly identified each color. And so in doing this, the mastery criteria would be for the patient to correctly color all 9 items. Step 3 is to outline pictures of objects with distinct shape properties. And so in this step, the clinician is going to have different objects and instruct the client to trace and outline each object. So, Hannah, I want you to take this pen and draw an outline around each object without touching the lines of the pictures. Remember, don't touch the lines. Very good. So the mastery criteria for this step is that each object has to be outlined and conforms to the shape and does not touch or trace the lines of the original shape. Step 4 is to copy geometric shapes. So the clinician will have various geometric shapes for the client to take a pen and copy. Hannah, I want you to take this pen and copy each figure right here. Very good. So Hannah copied the geometric figures to the right of the original object. And the mastery criteria for step 4 is that for each shape shown, all lines must be present in the correct proportion and in proper relation to one another. Step 5 is to complete drawings with missing elements and internal features. So on this example, there's an example of a car and of a flag. And so the clinician will ask the client to first identify what is missing on each object, and then we'll have the client fill in the missing part. Hannah, I want you to show me what is missing in this picture. Very good. What is missing in this picture? So in this, Hannah identified that a tire was missing from the car and that the stripes were missing from the flag. And so then the clinician would have the client take a pen or a marker and fill in the missing parts. Very good. And so for the mastery criteria for step 5, all completions are successfully rendered and complete and conceptually reasonable within the picture and the drawing. The next step is step 6, and this is where you have the client draw objects with characteristic shapes from memory. So the clinician will allow the client to see the picture first, and then we'll have them draw from memory. So Hannah, I want you to look at this object. Remember what it looks like, because I am going to cover it up and I want you to draw it from memory. Are you ready? Take this pen and draw it from memory. Very good. So Hannah correctly identified that this was a pencil and redrew it to the right. And for the mastery criteria for this step, for each shape that is shown, all lines must be present in the correct proportion and in proper relation to one another. Step 7 is to have the client draw objects to command from stored representations. And so the clinician will have word cards and will first instruct the client to look at the word and then have the client draw that word. And so, Hannah, look at this word. It says ice cream. Can you draw ice cream right here? So Hannah correctly identified ice cream and drew an example of ice cream on the page. The mastery criteria for step 7 is that drawings of each object can be correctly identified by a naive judge who is not shown the target words. So step 8 is drawing objects within different categories. And so again, the clinician will have word cards with various words on it and will instruct the client to draw something within the category. So for example, see this word? It says tool. I want you to think of a tool and draw it right here. Do the very best you can. Very good. So Hannah drew a wrench, and the mastery criteria for this step is that all responses must all responses drawn must be to that category that was named and can be correctly identified by a naive judge, again, not provided those target words. And then step 9 is generative drawing. And so the clinician will give the client a blank piece of paper and will instruct them to draw as many animals or tools or any category as they can. And so an example of this would be, Hannah, on this page, I want you to draw as many animals as you can. Make sure your drawings are clear enough so that anyone could name the animals that you draw. Do the very best that you can. Very good. So Hannah drew a picture of a fish, a cat, and a horse. And the mastery criteria for step 9 is that all responses are correct exemplars of that category that was named and that they can be correctly identified by a naive judge. And then step 10 is drawing cartooned scenes. And so in this step, the clinician is going to show a model, a cartooned model. And for this example, it is a 2-panel model. And the clinician will have the client study the picture and then draw it from memory. And so here's the picture. And so Hannah, I want you to study this picture well because I'm going to ask you to draw it from memory. All right, take this pen and draw it from memory. Very good. So Hannah drew the 2-panel model from memory, and she did a very nice job. And the mastery criteria for step 10 is that each panel should be accurate enough for the naive judge to identify all the elements necessary for understanding and stating the message of each cartoon. So overall, this program is a 10-step approach, and throughout the program, the individuals get better, and their drawing improves, and they're able to communicate with those that they love. You did a very nice job. Thank you very much.